that day, I saw like 3 city police caravanning in a row. When me and my other target individual friend, I was driving him somewhere. But I haven't been out a lot as I've been living at the condo. I've kind of been just hanging out there. I'm not driving around as much. Plus, I haven't been making a lot of videos of vehicular stalking. And there's a one light car coming down. If you can see it, that truck right there. Y'all can catch that right there. And right there, one light truck right there. Just want to get those on video. As I'm out more, they'll kind of, track me or whatever, get the text message of where I am. However they do it, I'm pretty sure they have me on like a GPS. The DHS Fusion Center guys. They don't know about the microwaves or whatever. They've been told that I'm, crazy person or a person of interest. And it's usually like black trucks, black trucks with chains on their rear view mirrors and like really tricked out, tinted windows with loud booming, music sometimes. It's really kind of a dangerous situation because it's people who, they're not looking for justice, they're not fighting terrorism, they've just been told they can kind of harass people however they want. So it's all a big joke, it's all a big trick. And so, and it is like, on the call, I kind of heard, like I was halfway asleep and I woke up, and the call lasted for like, it was still going on after 4 hours when I woke up. And they were talking about at the beginning, they were talking about a lot of cases where they are, they're banning, what were they talking about? They're making a lot of local legislation about banning, these electromagnetic weapons. I'm not quite sure. It was something about a ban on this kind of harassment. But I do know that DHS centers are showing up on InfoWars. They're starting to talk about them on InfoWars. I think look up. Shoot, man, I wish I could remember. What they were talking about. I'm sorry about that. I'll come back to that. I really don't remember. But I know it was some good local legislation in California. There's 2 areas that have made some very, very good strides in outlawing a lot of this stuff. And I've heard rumors that the Senate and the House of Representatives are trying to pass a bill where with these people, like a civilian who has a one light car working for the DHS Fusion Center, when they go and give information, they call it something like a wall up or a wall off, and then police are not going to be able to take that information anymore. So they're starting to pass bills because these DHS fusion centers, they're not working, they're not catching terrorism, it's causing problems, and so they're starting to make legislation in the House of Representatives and the Senate to actually say that these people can't report to fusion centers, that a lot of people cannot, like informants can't give information because it's not credible and it's not doing any good. So they're making a lot of strides. So it's like if a lot of legislation gets passed against DHS fusion centers, and this was a rumor, it was actually called a certain act, and y'all look it up, but there's rumors of it being passed. It hasn't been passed yet, but it would make it so that these one light cars cannot report to the DHS fusion centers. They couldn't report to the police or like a sheriff or something like that. Their information would be they can't do it anymore. So once these DHS fusion centers start kind of dwindling down, this microwave stuff, they're passing legislation, local legislation on that. We'll see a lot of difference, and we're seeing a lot of difference in awareness too. So it looks like we're really getting somewhere, and it's like, I'm watching it, and it's exciting because, this guy, he's beefing it up. He's, they want to, every night they plan on, or they say it on B2K that they are going to, go ahead and finish it that night. And then it's like I've experienced the stomach cramps, and I think they are poisoning my food within my condo. Because they've got somebody who just has 24-hour access. It doesn't look weird. He doesn't have to wait or anything. He can go into my apartment anytime he wants because he's the maintenance guy. So So that's kind of what I've heard about all that. I know it wasn't a lot of good information, but it's real information that's kind of bubbling up. And so things are happening where, and a lot of people are complaining. Like, I watched the Stephen Colbert show last night, and he was really, like, he was acting upset about the Senate and the Senate not passing a bill on gun control, just any bill on gun control. And I was kind of happy about that. I don't talk to a lot of TIs who have guns. And please comment if you are a TI with guns. Like, I didn't have a gun, but I don't, and I think maybe one TI that I've talked to, I know that he has guns and stuff like that. Maybe some others, but I don't think the majority of TIs that they pick, they don't have guns. I don't think they really go after people with guns, with firearms, because that's dangerous. That's a risk. So I think that guns are very important because these people have microwave weapons. There's a lot of other reasons we should keep our guns. I don't even own a gun, but I see the importance of keeping the Second Amendment, and not even, I mean, once you ban an AR-15, then it's a slippery slope from there. So we got to be careful, because then they'll just start banning every type of weapon. So I was happy. I mean, I'm happy that the Senate is going along with who it represents. The people do not want to get rid of their guns. Even with all these mass shootings, we need to be looking into bad people or events that are maybe concocted where real people die, that push agendas. We need to look into the real problems and not just be like, oh, well, maniac with a gun, shot everybody, let's outlaw guns, because guns keep sane people safe. They don't show the stuff on the news where a security guard at a school, made sure that there wasn't a shooting at the school because she had a gun, or like videos of people protecting their homes when robbers are gonna, break into their home and tie them up and steal their stuff, and they have a gun, so it makes them run off, or they get a shot in the leg or something like that. I'm not a big gun user, but after knowing about this kind of stuff, and I hear TIs who are afraid in their homes, because they have break-ins while they are there. We do need our guns, and we need people who are proficient in firearms, and who aren't part of the corruption to really protect us from corrupt whatever this is. And I was also thinking about some stuff today. I talked to one of my friends about, kind of how in the war, the Department of Defense it will it will hire out, and they're trying to change that light as I'm going through, but I'm just going to go through it. They will hire out to private standing armies that answer to private companies, like Black Forest, and there's the police right there. Police coming up right there. It's a sheriff. But they will, hire out to private armies working for, private companies like Black Forest. And then once Black Forest goes to Afghanistan, it'll actually change its name, so that it can go off and do other things. And the thing with that is that that they've started doing that with this kind of thing, like these. My attacker, my main organizer, is ex-Army, but he's not working for the government or necessarily directly for the DOD. He might be working directly with DHS, but the microwave weapons, and these people who are stalking us, like street stalking us, they are working directly for DHS. The microwavers, the people who are doing the electronic harassment, the torture, the poisoning, and all that, they're basically like mercenaries, kind of hired by the DOD to separate them from our government. This is a theory of mine, and I'm pretty sure about it, because they're working for private companies, private interests, and private agendas. And the problem with that is that you have no oversight, you have no transparency. Even a lot of the things in the military-industrial complex have no transparency or accountability. So when you start talking about a private standing army that can be used, like can be maybe, contracted out to Raytheon to experiment with these weapons in conjunction with money that, the DoD is maybe giving private investigation firms or private mercenary groups to do this, to kill citizens, then you've got private standing armies that are actually at war, or not at war, but they're torturing and exterminating American citizens. So we've actually got like an enemy inside of our country, but it's very complicated. They'll tell everybody around them, hey, we're doing this for the government, we're working with DHS, but it's more complicated. In fact, the way the money flows, the way money flows from the DoD to then private companies that have private standing armies like Black Forest. And I think Black Forest, recently changed its name after it did some stuff in Afghanistan and Iraq. They just changed their names, and then, whatever they did is kind of just shoved under the rug. And that's kind of like this. These are private, like Raytheon or those kind of companies contracting out. The DoD contracts out from private mercenary groups, and I think that's some of it. It may not be every situation. But I get a real, I was talking to my friend about that kind of stuff and how we did that in the war, how we contracted out to private mercenary groups, and they would go over there and do kind of the job of a soldier. And I think that's what we have now, because even the DoD, the government definitely, but the DoD wants to separate what is happening here, the experimentation on its own people, so it'll get a private business, or somebody contracted out with Raytheon, or the people who make these weapons, or stuff like that. Now that's just a theory. I'm not certain on that, but it makes sense. The way the money flows and the way this is so complicated and it's not able to be stopped, that would make a lot of sense in the way that the money flowed, and that these groups would be kind of just involved in the microwave torture, and maybe contacting some police who did know about that very, very carefully. But then again, some of a lot of these gang stalkers who do not microwave you do work directly for DHS. So y'all comment on that theory. I'm pretty certain it's very complicated, though. I think that's why they're doing it. If it was like straight from the government, or even straight from the DoD, it would be able to be ended a lot quicker. There wouldn't be so much red tape and non-transparency. I did also want to mention, when you're in your car, I'm in my car a lot, and I'm going to watch this from now on, because I realize this gets me in a lot of trouble. I will talk to the microwave hearing, because they can hear me, I can hear their voices, and sometimes I will yell. And there's a one-light car right there. And I will yell, and I'm thinking, my thought was, and y'all kind of understand how this is layers of stuff. So sometimes you're thinking about how this is all working, you realize something by instinct, but you don't really pay attention to it. And so I kind of came to it where I wanted to deal with it and tell y'all about it. You have your camera, you have your phone in your car, and they do use your camera phone and your camera microphone to watch and listen to you. So if you do get in your car with your phone, and there's a one-light car right there, if you do get in your car with your phone and you do talk to your V2K, they can record from your phone and the microphone from your phone watching you talk to yourself in parentheses, and then they can easily show this to police or fusion centers, because it's video picked up from your phone. So, and there's a one-light car right there. That one right there. I got a green light here. But see, that's the thing. This whole time, I've kind of, thought about how they do remotely surveil us. So I'm being remotely surveilled in this car, but I'm also being surveilled by my camera phone. The camera on the back and the front, and the microphone in it is listening to me. They can also do that with remote surveillance. They are kind of eye in the sky. It's like a radar. And there's a one-light car up ahead. It's one light is brighter than the other one. But they, you know, they do have that kind of remote surveillance. But that's, you know, I was thinking, who would they show that remote surveillance to